Welcome back to r/confession, where an employee single-handedly runs a company and even manages to unfire himself. The second story is about a work experience so awful that OP wishes to get fired. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, I snooped on the CEO's email account and got myself unfired. A couple years out of college, I worked as an analyst at a pretty small private equity firm. The CEO was one of the biggest a-holes I have ever met. He was fairly young, in his 40s, a multi-millionaire, and the type of guy driven solely by money with zero business ethics. He would do anything to get the upper hand in a deal, regardless of who it screws over, contractors, employers. I even saw him seriously F over a longtime family friend of his without any remorse. Anyway, aside from my analyst role, as it was a really small business, only about 20 people in the office and then a bunch of people working remotely, I also happened to be one of the only semi-technology literate people in the company. So, like many of my generation, I became the de facto millennial office computer guy too. Despite my lack of qualifications, I got put in charge of handling pretty much anything minor tech related. Setting up servers, fixing laptop issues, answering "how do I convert this to PDF?" questions, even basic network security. They thought I was some sort of computer genius, but really I was just mostly winging it, googling pretty much everything. But eventually I got legitimately pretty good at all the tech stuff. They gave me bigger tasks like planning all of the computer systems for their owned businesses and supervising installs. I did not get paid extra for any of this, mind you. After a couple of years of serious bullcrap working there, I was pretty worn out. I was not progressing, I hated working for Captain Douchebag, he treated everyone like crap, I was pulling 12 to 14 plus hour days with no overtime or performance bonus. And guys, damn, have you ever worked a job like that? To me that almost sounds like modern slavery. Anyway, and they were not paying me nearly what they should have. I also hated being the tech guy and was depressed as F, basically living in a cubicle. So I decided I full on had enough of the 9 to 8 life working for a-holes and I would start my own consulting business working for myself. However, instead of quitting it right away, I figured it would be smart to first build up my client base on the side while I was still getting a steady paycheck. So that is what I did. I launched my company and landed my first clients. As the workload increased, I slowly started spending more and more time working on my side business while at my office job. At first I was pretty low-key about it. But eventually, it was blatant. As it was a super small company, I was the only one who knew how to do a lot of important tasks and operate some key eternal systems. It was easy for me to tell my boss a project was taking a whole week to complete that I actually finished in 10 minutes. Pretty soon, I was spending 80% of my day working on my own stuff in the office. I would even take calls from my side business clients at my desk. The rest of the time I was usually dicking around on Reddit or something. Of course, we had systems in place to monitor network activity, but I was the person in charge of monitoring it. This continued for a while. As my own business ramped up, I cared less and less about the office job, and since I hated waking up early, I began rolling into work late. At first it was only 30 minutes or so, then it progressed to an hour. When my boss did not reprimand me, it became clear how much they needed me there. I took full advantage of this. Before long, I was arriving around noon, working for a couple hours and then heading home. My coworkers were not happy, but I helped them with all of their tech problems and they hated the company too, so they kept their mouth shut about it. My boss eventually said something to me about all it at one point, but I just came in on time the next few days and then went back to coming in whenever I wanted. After more than 2 months of coming in 4 to 5 hours late and working on my side business in full view of my a-hole boss, I could not believe I was not fired yet. I deserved it and felt it was inevitable. On a hunch, I decided to do a little investigative work. As I was the tech guy, I also had full access to the company email server. So I logged into the CEO's personal email account and searched for my name. Lo and behold, there was a recent email thread between him, my direct boss, and some other team members with my name in the subject line. Obviously, I open it, they are discussing my recent performance issues. The last email in the chain basically said, "If nobody has any objections, I will be terminating him at the end of that week." 2 days from then. I was not surprised, but I decided there was no way I was going to let these a-holes fire me. Although I did not give a damn about that job, I did not want to have a termination in my work history. I also wanted to keep getting paid for a while longer. Of course, I could not let him know I actually knew I was getting canned, so I formulated a plan to perform a little Inception reverse psychology mind F on the CEO. The next day, one day before they planned to fire me, I requested a meeting with him to discuss my current performance. In that meeting I sat down and he asked me what I wanted to talk about. So I told him, paraphrased, "Look, I know I've been a crappy employee lately, I'm sure you have noticed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been kind of getting the feeling you guys are planning to let me go soon." When I said that, the shocked look on his face was priceless. He must have thought I was psychic to work that out on my own the day before it was going to happen. I remember him just saying something like, I continued while he said flabbergasted, "So I'll be honest with you, my heart is not in this job anymore. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, which I'm sure you can relate to. I want to start my own company. However, as you are aware, I have a lot of responsibilities here nobody else can do." I then proceeded to list all of the things I did and projects I was working on. I could see it on his face when the realization sunk in of how screwed he would be if I left suddenly. So here is what I propose. You don't fire me, I don't quit, I keep working here for a month, finish my current projects and train whoever you want on everything I am in charge of. After a month is up, I will continue to come in once per week until it is complete. After that, if you still need me, you can pay me on an hourly project by project basis. I intentionally mentioned the possibility of me quitting so he could feel like he won the negotiation even though I technically had him by the balls. He paused to think for a minute, then said something along the lines of, "Okay, you have a deal." So not only did I get myself unfired, I actually turned the company into a paying client. During that month, I continued doing pretty much whatever I wanted since I had an expiration date while training my replacement as promised. After the month was up, they hit me up regularly for remote task work. I charged them triple what I was earning while working there and barely had to deal with the CEO. My client base was big enough, I dropped them for good. After all that, the CEO still calls me up for advice and questions nearly 3 years later. These days I just blow him off saying, "Sorry, I'm too busy." Edit, as it seems there is some doubt that this actually happened. It did. Figured I would clarify a few points. This was a very small company, the office had about 20 people in it and several dozen more worked remote. If you have never worked in a small office before, I can assure you it is pretty normal for employees to wear many hats and take on random roles outside their initial scope. It is also pretty normal for them to be severely lacking with network security and controlling passwords. Second, I did not become some computer genius and never claimed to be, though my company of technology illiterate baby boomers sometimes thought of me that way. I had decent basic working knowledge coming into the job and picked up more over the several years I was there. For anything complicated like wiring, hardware installs, advanced networking tasks, etc., we hired outside IT consultants, but I was the guy who would source them, hire them, supervise them, and learn the systems they put in place. And also, I just handled more basic tasks myself. We are also not talking about enterprise level security here either. Third, my consulting business has nothing to do with private equity. I'm not going to reveal exactly what I do for privacy's sake since this blew up, but it is in marketing. I did not steal any of my old company's clients when I left and don't compete with them. Number 4, yes, I'm fully aware and admit I was an a-hole, hence posting this in r/confession. In fact, I decided to start my own company because I hate working for other people without my own skin in the game. I'm not a great employee when I don't care about what I'm doing, however, the guys running the company were pretty crappy people, and I did not feel that bad about it at the time. The thing I did have reservations about was snooping on the emails. I do not condone invading privacy like that. However, he had freely given me the passwords so I could help him set up his Outlook, forwarding, etc., and I felt me getting fired was inevitably coming soon. And interestingly enough, in regards to this boss, OP further told us in the comments, it is hard to communicate how much of a prick he was. For one example, the first time I met him was out at a sort of party / networking event one of our clients was having. There was an elderly custodian guy there who worked for the venue, going around sweeping up food and trash on the ground. As I am talking to the CEO, he points to some random crumbs on the floor that he had dropped earlier and says, "Hey, I think you missed that spot." The guy looks at him, then sweeps the tiny crumbs up. CEO crouches down and stares at the spot. I think you still missed some." The guy sweeps the invisible crumbs up again. CEO then goes over and crouches next to another spot on the floor and says, "And what about this one here? Come on, man." This goes on for several minutes, with this old custodian just following him around, sweeping wherever he pointed, looking completely defeated. All the while, CEO had a shit-eating grin on his face, looking to me like it was the funniest thing in the world. That was my first impression of him. In addition, OP said he was not a comic book villain or anything, he was actually one of the most savvy businessmen I've ever seen. Seriously crazy sharp. One thing I was always amazed by was his ability to recall super specific pieces of information from random conversation even years after they happened. Like some dollar amount brought up from some negotiation, he could also calculate pretty complicated deals in his head pretty crazy fast. But picture someone like Donald Trump doing these crappy things and you can picture that guy doing it. They were eerily similar in many ways from a business / personality perspective, just generally scummy and cared only about his own wallet. And in regards to this story maybe being fake, OP said, "I wish it was fake, I have many other stories like that one." Another one off the top of my head, one time a bunch of us were at a bar downtown after a client meeting. This dude loved to smoke cigars, it was actually ridiculous how many he could smoke in a night. Anyway, we are all a bit tipsy and he decides to light one up in the middle of this bar / restaurant, which is clearly no smoking allowed. A server walks up to him and says super polite, "Sorry sir, you're not allowed to do that in here." He just looked at her and blew a huge puff of smoke directly in her face. The bouncer saw what happened, ran over and escorted him out. Also, he was the stingiest, cheapest guy I've ever met. Probably a factor in how he got so rich relatively young. One time he full on berated the office manager in front of everyone because she bought a small box of paper clips for full price at the store on the company card instead of ordering using the company discount through whatever office supplies vendor we worked with. And guys, I don't know about you, but for me this story does not seem all too unbelievable. And furthermore, I'm curious, have you ever worked in such a small office? Or have you ever started your own business? Let us know in the comments how it went. And the next one is titled, "I destroyed my work project and I hope I get fired." This is petty, I don't care. I've worked at a company for 2 years. In that time I've gone from an incredible asset to the company to babysitter. I wish I was joking. This company is owned by several people, but managed by a relative to the higher-ups. A guy who has never worked for anyone except his mommy, who owns the company, a guy who is incapable of doing basically anything for himself, someone who will, one day, take over the company, who currently cannot even figure out Bluetooth. Moron would be a compliment. You think I'm just being harsh on my boss or exaggerating? I wish. I wish it was just me being dramatic. Last phone call I had from him was him asking where he was. No, I am serious. "Foot, I'm driving, where am I?" He asks me to track his phone, find his location, see if I can find a store near him that sells a certain item that he cannot remember the name of the store either or where it is exactly. And then I am to GPS voice navigate him there using track his phone to tell him when to turn. This is my life, 50+ phone calls a day from this man.
Foot, did you get my email?
Yes, I responded to it and answered your questions.
Oh good, read it out to me.
Proceed to read the email to him, he is happy. Fast forward 2 hours, get a scathing email from him responding to my reply.
Foot, why did you email me again when we just talked about this on the phone? This wastes my time.
I no longer do my regular job, I've been transitioned into this personal assistant role even though I did not want it at all, to the point I'm currently searching for a new job. The company is bleeding money like someone cut off both of its legs. Boss is supposed to be figuring out why, but the guy cannot even pour himself a cup of coffee from the machine we have had for 6 years. In my day-to-day, I also assist other departments, I have access to various software, I work alongside multiple managers and assist with their projects as well, when I'm not being asked to identify the brand of socks boss is wearing so that he can figure out where to buy more and have me called to
have them set aside a package for me so I don't have to walk through the store looking for these like an idiot.
Based on my observations, I found several problems that are costing us money, either by purchasing, distribution or just general lack of adequate price adjustments. Some were serious enough that I even spoke to a different department manager who was impressed and took me to the CEO to ask if I can be moved to their department to help fix some of the identified problems. The CEO is the boss's mother. I get told that I absolutely am not allowed to transfer, that I am far too valuable as a personal assistant to be shared with other departments, that boss will handle and oversee the changes that need to be made. Manager and I were stunned, turns out mother wants to step away from the company and wants boss to run it. That boss just needs more projects to work on to get a better understanding of how to run the company. Boss gets called in, told that I identified several issues and that boss needs to get them resolved. Boss gets mad at mother, telling her he does not have time to do that. Mother says she understands that he is a very busy boy. Again, I'm not joking, sitcoms cannot even write this kind of stuff. The boss later calls me into his office and tells me that I am to work on fixing all of these issues, but that I am to also give him all of my notes, tell him how I fixed it, and he will present it to the board. Boss then proceeds to leave for the day, calling me later to ask what kind of mustard was the mustard he liked the most on his deli sandwiches. Then proceeded to lecture me on mustard because the answer I gave him was obviously not the right kind of mustard and that I need to pay more attention to things like that. I hung up the phone, picked up all my notes on this bleeding money situation / project and shredded them. Oops, sorry, I'm too much of an idiot to handle doing any type of investigation work into our financial records for the past 5 years. I am certainly too much of an idiot to notice that your profit margins went from 32% to less than 18% on the majority of our products we manufacture. All the while giving our distributors more than 46% discount so that they
keep coming back for more.
Here is hoping boss can figure that out, especially considering the layoffs we keep having. Excuse me while I make note of what kind of mustard he prefers on his Montreal smoked meat sandwich, which is a much more important use of my time. Because, in the words of boss,
maybe one day you will be capable like me, if you keep working at it.
I hope I get fired. And guys, what would you call this kind of boss? Honestly, it reminds me of the last boss my mom had before she retired. This guy basically always controlled her and tried to check what she was doing, even though she was doing a great job and he absolutely depended on her. Maybe something like a control freak, just worse. Did you ever have a boss like that? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is an update to the story from just now. Despite a few interviews, I am still in this godforsaken hole. You may be wondering, so Foot, did you get fired for shredding the project notes? Nope. Lectured? Yes. Got told I was a disappointment? Yes. Things that have happened since then. Boss has determined that fixing these issues is not actually that important after all, and that me shredding the documents was not a huge loss. Boss proceeded to inform me that I was
looking for problems
and that I should keep my nose clean regarding company matters, aka stop trying to find things that are wrong that he would have to fix. Still getting 40+ phone calls a day, today my first phone conversation was, Boss,
Foot, it's raining.
Foot, yes it is. Boss,
Did you get more rain at your house than at my house?
Me? I don't know, boss.
Well, don't you measure your rain?
Foot? No, boss.
You should, then you will know how much rain there was.
Do you measure your rain?
Oh no, we just water the garden when it gets dry.
So, why did you ask?
Well, if you told me how much rain you got by measurement, I could guess at how much rain I got, and I could see who got more rain. But now I cannot, so whatever.
Anything else, boss?
No, that's it. I will be at work soon.
On a good note, I have actually stopped doing my job. I don't get paid enough for this crap. I spend my days babysitting, doing most mundane of tasks, doing only enough to not get caught, and spending the rest of my time spread out between working on a novel, watching training videos online related to my field or upgrades on Reddit, writing the same list over and over, creating spreadsheets for things that don't matter, and submitting my resume to new job listings. I've realized I cannot get fired at this point, not because it's impossible, but because the funds are not there to do severance. I've even been warned that our paychecks might bounce next week and that they will be writing manual checks that we can take to the bank teller and have them check if there is enough money before we deposit them. Obviously, I'm looking for anything at this point. Are we still hemorrhaging money? You bet your sweet ass we are. Did I ask for additional access to sales orders as part of my research? Sure did. Did I manage to confirm that we are selling almost all of our wholesale products for below cost? Yep. Does CEO care? Nope, because sweet baby boy will make things all better once he gets the hang of running a company. On that note, here are additional things I have done this past month. Replaced boss's pens in his office entirely with crayons. Purchased the bathroom scent spray fragrance that boss says he hates with enough supply for the next year so they cannot justify buying more. Had the boys from the shop string up his office chair from the overhead crane. Called all my vendors that I have working relationships with and had boss's authorization removed from all accounts, citing a need for 3 signature approvals to override. Destroyed my notes for fixing the inventory system, which had been neglected for 15 years, and I reorganized to a functional point. This was deemed not necessary, so I removed all my work and shredded those documents too. I listen to music all day or podcasts despite the policy against it. I take extra long breaks up to an hour where I disappear. I took a week off with only 5 hours notice and came back to not being fired. I sign my email signatures with increasingly strange job titles. Today I am Unicorn Wrangler and Wizard Assistant, and now I am sitting on Reddit updating you all. It's been a magical, wonderful ride, and I would not wish this on anyone. I hope you've been entertained, shocked, awed, and perhaps a bit more disappointed in the human race. I will survive, but I don't think the horrors of the crap I've seen will ever go away. There was that one time that boss could not get his suspenders back on and came into my office with his pants around his knees asking for help in nothing but old man tighty-whities. Seriously, I did not get paid enough for this. And guys, have you ever been involved in a job where you thought, I just don't get paid enough for this? Let us know in the comments, and personally for me, so far I've not had such a job, and to be honest I'm glad I haven't, because this boss sounds like a lunatic. And with that we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripestories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.